former Disney chief, Michael Eisner, I mentioned him, right? He's publicly out there blasting Iger. Like, what the hell are you doing with the company that I gave you something great and look what you turned it into. Quote, he wrote on X, "Where has all the leadership gone?" Suspending indefinitely of Kimmel immediately after the chairman of FCC's aggressive yet hollow threatening of Disney is yet another example of out of control intimidation. So here's the thing. Like, I actually don't think that the FCC was the one that did this. I think the fact that you had Nexstar and Sinclair pulling, that's like 20% of the affiliates, and saying we don't want anything to do with this show under these circumstances, that's actually what was the impetus to all that. Granted, Brandon didn't, pull any punches. I mean, you look at what Brandon said, and it was pretty significant. He went on with my friend Benny and said basically Kimmel's conduct is pretty darn sick. And you know what? Brandon was right.
When you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he had emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC, I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest in some changes.
So there, he said it. Okay, he said it. And as I said, the sharks are out for blood right now with former CEO trying to take Bob Iger down. He may just do it. I'll tell you, investors aren't one bit happy with any of this. But you heard what Brendan said. In other words, again, you have very different interests there. Cable's totally different. If Jimmy wants to go do his show, like Greg Gutfeld has a show that's actually funny on Fox at night, he can go do it on MSNBC, or he can do it on CNN, and you're able to do that. Or you can come over here and come up against me. I'll welcome the competition. Do you know that we have over 1 million subs now? I mean, this is crazy. I just kind of started doing this show a couple of years ago, and you guys came, and you kept coming back and coming back and coming back. So thank you for that. And if you haven't subscribed and hit the bell, please do me that favor. One of these days, we're going to get an exact time. But, for now, you're going to have to bear with me. I got 3 kids and a lot of news. It takes a lot of time to get all this news into the show, believe it or not. So you got Eisner angling for Iger. Bob Iger, he doesn't want to let go of that job. And I know I'm giving you some inside baseball. I probably shouldn't share this, but who cares at this point? It was public knowledge. I mean, I would have the booker come over to me before I'd have him on my show at Bloomberg and say, please don't ask. Don't ask about retirement. And then I'd hear from the person who was the PR person. I forget her name. And she would always send me, so you're not going to ask about, succession plans or retirement or anything, right? I think occasionally I did just for fun. Anyway, he doesn't like to talk about that, even though he really ought to be planning his retirement. When he was actually retired, he wasn't really retired, so he turned the reins over to Bob Chapek, but apparently kept his own office and used to hold big lunches and meetings with all the other executives. So the poor other Bob could never get to first base because he had Bob Iger waiting in the wings, ready to destroy him at any second until he could eventually take over again. Listen, I'll tell you, Nelson Peltz was right. Nelson Peltz, he called it. Get rid of Iger, change the company, get rid of all these stupid sequels, get rid of your wokeness. Improve yourselves. Get rid of your management. Clean house. Start over. But they can't do it. And so now they're facing boycotts from all sides. And isn't it just grand? John Oliver, another one over at HBO. You get the stock getting killed. I mean, as the market doubles, right? Disney's dead money in the water. So do I feel bad for them? No, 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 and no. Because this is a guy who actually did some pretty gross stuff. Let's just consider, I know that America's rejecting him. I know the Sinclair and Nexstar, they're not going to take him back. But think about this. I mean, Andrew Colvett, who was Charlie's producer, was going on about how you had this emotional reaction from Jimmy. Jimmy was emotional about his own career getting taken out. He never apologized to Erica Kirk and to the Kirk family. He never apologized to MAGA. He never said he was wrong. He talked about how it was interpretation and this, that, and the other. And you know what? Jimmy gets to live another day, literally. And if it doesn't work out for him on ABC, and I don't think it will, he gets to go to MSNBC or CNN or, over here on YouTube, and he can do his show there. Rob Schneider, comedian, saying the exact same thing. That was not an apology, okay? That was bad. That was bad stuff, Jimmy boy. And we know you're grumpy cat, but enough, okay? You're a ratings disaster. You had a one-night stand. You looked good for one night. You got a lot of YouTube views. I mean, even I watched you on YouTube because I wanted to see what you had to say. You got like 6 million views, people tuning in, friends of mine that would never watch Jimmy Kimmel, let alone stay up that late to watch this guy, this loser. No, they watched just to see if he could do the decent thing, and he couldn't. He couldn't. So it's game over. You're getting sued. You are in a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble, believe me. We've written on this at 76research.com, my company. Use code word dollar, if you're interested in investing, and I hope you are, because it's really important to take care of yourself and to take care of your family and to take ownership, right, of your own direction in life. Use dollar, DOLLAR. I would not advise buying Disney right now, but we do have companies that we like, and we do tell you. So take a look at those because a lot of them do super well. The other thing I just want to mention is, we're coming out of this cancel culture. I'll tell you, it was bad. And then, you get the left saying, oh, my gosh, we're getting canceled by the right. And it's like, excuse me, this is nothing compared to what we went through. I mean, I had friends that couldn't get bank accounts. I told you guys my own story. I had a bank that kept calling me and calling me. I have had this account since going back to like 1997, 1998, a lot of years, right? They should know who I am. And yet they would call me every couple months with all these suspicious questions. And then all of a sudden it stopped. In November, it stopped after Donald Trump was elected. So this is actually kind of an important issue. I want to bring it up. I want you to go look at this at forfreemarkets.com, because under the Obama and Biden administrations, what did you see? Regulators pressuring banks to close accounts for industries and for individuals that they didn't like, people that they politically didn't agree with. And that was wrong. You know it was wrong. I know it was wrong. They know it was wrong. Well, President Trump, thankfully, is taking decisive action in this area. He's not going to let it happen. This whole debanking thing, this has to end. And so he wants your help in ending it. This is why Americans for Free Markets is thanking President Trump for all of his efforts. Together we can stand for freedom. Together we can stand against this insane cancel culture that was so horrible for so many of us for so long. We need clarity. We need consistency. We need accountability in this financial regulatory process. So please make sure that abuse never happens again. Join me by going to FOR, FOR, freemarkets.com.